And we're back. Marchand and Ourand, and we're discussing our greatest hits, ESPN, DTC, and the impact on streaming. We'll get into the future of sports media, Fox, NBC, CBS, and the newbies, Amazon, Netflix, and YouTube, and more. It's the main event, the monthly, with John Ourand. John, thanks again for joining us. Love to see you.
Andrew, saw you in person, in the flesh last week up in New York at the Upfronts. That was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. The Upfronts, a lot of people say, they're long. You hear about all this programming, but nowadays it's a sports media event because it's all sports media. I mean, that's the amazing thing about the Upfronts right now. Sports dominating.
Yeah, sports used to be if you went to the Warner Brothers Discovery Upfront event, sport didn't come on until like the very end, and it was a very short. That used to be how all the networks handled sports, but now it leads it off. And at the Disney one that we were both at, Bob Iger comes out. The first thing you see is him with Saquon Barkley and Patrick Mahomes conducting an interview on stage. Like, those are the biggest stars now. It's nobody from Hollywood anymore. So now Hollywood is getting the short shrift. It's a really an amazing turnaround over the past couple of years.
And the dominant party at the Disney event were the Manning brothers. I mean, it was all Manning brothers throughout. They did a performance where they sang. Jimmy Kimmel made fun of it at the end. So it was a lot of Mannings. So before I get to the sponsor, let's just start at the topic of the day. Just briefly, we're going to get deep into it. What did you think of ESPN's announcement? $29.99 for ESPN DC. Then you can add for another $5 a month Hulu and Disney Plus. What did you think of their announcement? That's the unlimited. There's still ESPN Plus that we'll get into. That's what's called the Select package for $11.99. What did you make of their overall presentation?
Not a ton, to be honest. The name itself, well, of course, it leaked out a little bit. I think CNBC was the ones to get that Alex Sherman over there. And the price is pretty much what you've been reporting for, the better part of a year. And what I was hoping for coming out of that was more of a demonstration of, like, this is what you're going to see on the app. They're still sort of talking about that in ethereal terms, as opposed to like, hey, let's show you exactly what it's going to look like when you go to that. So that's still to come. So I don't think there were a ton of big surprise. Well, there weren't a ton of big surprises coming from their announcement, but it just does show that they're marching inexorably on to launching this thing by this fall.
Yeah, and Justin Connolly was there. Then you reported shortly after decades at ESPN being, very big up overall in the ESPN stratosphere. He said he's leaving possibly to YouTube. Maybe we'll get a little bit into that. We're powered by WSC Sports. As always, asset management capabilities have been added into the platform out of the box for no extra cost for all clients, old and new. No longer do you need to juggle or pay for multiple tools to complete your content workflows. It all happens in one place. So go to WSC Sports in the show notes, click the link, yellow demo, and tell them Marchand sent you. June 3rd, Gary Bettman, the commissioner of the NHL, will be our guest for Off the Record with Andrew Marchand, presented by WSC Sports. You can sign up in the show notes. It's in Midtown. We had Jimmy Bertaro, we had Rick Cardella, talked to him for about 45 minutes, and there's free apps and some cocktails if you'd like. So Midtown Manhattan, June the 3rd, that's a Tuesday. So we'd like to see you out there with the commissioner, Gary Bettman. Very honored he'll do it. Let's get back into ESPN DC. So, look, I don't want to focus on this too much. We'll get into it maybe a little bit later. You owe me a steak.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that steak for a second. It certainly appears that I'm going to owe you a steak.
Let's explain the bet first, though. When we started our pod, I said at that point, now this is what, 3-4 years ago, I guess maybe 4 years ago we started the pod.
I forget when it was. I think it was about 4 years ago.
But I said within 5 years, ESPN will have a direct-to-consumer full enchilada, not ESPN Plus full. You were very against it. You said it's never going to happen. Maybe in the 2050s. No, you weren't that. You weren't that extreme. You weren't that extreme. But you did say you didn't think it would happen within 5 years, like I did. We bet a steak. So now give me your excuses and like you don't have to pay up. What's the problem here?
Oh, no, I'm going to have to pay up, but I want to explain why I lost this bet. Cause right now the bet looks ridiculous. Everybody's going to streaming. Of course ESPN is, but back then, Peacock had just started to migrate some of its sports to streaming. And when I say migrate, like it was be available on USA or NBC, and it would be available as well on Peacock. And then CBS started to do the same thing. Fox and ESPN, they make so much money from the cable operators and satellite distributors and virtual MVPD providers as well. And look, I've been covering cable forever, and I just assumed, wrongly as it turns out, that when NBC was going to allow its programming to leak outside of the cable bundle, that the cable operators were going to punish NBC and bring them back into the fold and say, like, we're not going to pay you for non-exclusive programming that you're trying to leak out on your own. Same thing with CBS and Paramount. I just assumed that these cable operators, who are tough negotiators, would really hold the line, and they didn't. And when they didn't, I knew I was in trouble. Probably 2 years into the bet, when CBS was renewing their deals, and they weren't punished in the least. They just renewed their deals. And so if you're ESPN and you're Fox and you're looking at these bad actors, and they're not bad actors, they're making a business plan, but they cozied up to the distributors, and they're looking at these ones that didn't, and nothing untoward happened to them.
Yep.
Why should ESPN and Fox stay inside the cable bundle? It's plainly obvious that the distributors will continue to pay, and you can still allow your programming to seep out. So I would have been enjoying a stake on Marchand Sports Media had Charter or Cox or DirecTV held the line on Paramount and CBS and said, like, no, like that programming has to stay within the cable bundle. And they didn't. I'm not paying up until the actual launch.
That's fair enough. But I will say your last excuse, though, like saying I would have won my Super Bowl bet if the Chiefs had scored more points than the Eagles. To listen to the rest of the podcast, if you're not a paid subscriber, upgrade andrewmarchand.com, andrewmarchand.com, twice a week podcast. You got the monthly, every month with Ourand, which we always enjoy.
Once again, by the way, every time I come on here, I give my best stuff out for free, and then you put on the paywall. It should have been before that answer, I think, Andrew.
Yeah, maybe. Well, hopefully you have good stuff now. So here you go. And I had